This week, we've seen serpentine spellcasting, 80s era action, and superheroes with flamethrowers. Let's dive right into what's on the pull list. We're going to kick things off this week with Barbaric the Black Knight #1, written by Michael Morisi with artwork by Guillaume Balbi. So, while this is titled Barbaric, this has nothing to do with the character of Owen. This is really more about Dreadheart and her crew meeting up with the owner of another talking instrument of doom, right? This is a talking flail, similar to Axe that we've seen in Owen's possession here, and they're tasked with ending the true master of this flail. It was fun, but it was a bit lacking. It's been a long time since we've kind of been able to get back into the world of Barbaric, and I was hoping to really hit the ground running. Now, this is only a one shot, and we've seen other one shots here in the Barbaric universe, particularly the what was it, the Queen of Blades, I believe it was, something along those lines. But this. It was not the introduction I was looking for. It was a very good issue, but I want to spend more time with Owen. The artwork on this one was outside of the scope of what we've normally seen from Nathan Gooden, who was the artist that was on Barbaric proper. And it felt a little bit rushed. There were some panels in here that really looked like blown up thumbnails more than anything. I mean, it was good. Again, it was, when you see that kind of stuff, it really stands out to you and it makes you go, that doesn't fit the, what I was expecting. Ultimately, this was a little bit of a letdown when it was the reintroduction of this universe. I wanted a little bit more from it, but when we maybe get to see Owen come back for Barbaric proper, that's when I'm going to get excited. All right, let's talk about the inspiration for Barbaric with Conan, Scourge of the Serpent #2, written by Jim Zub with artwork by Ivan Gill. So, in this event series for Conan, we have Cull, we have Conan, and we have James, and they're all dealing with the serpentine menace in their own times as they start to realize that everyone isn't who they seem to be. This feels different than the Blackstone event that we got, with each of these storylines really kind of taking place in their own time era independently, although you can see that the actions that are taking place are influencing each and other timeline. But this isn't necessarily the team up like we had gotten with the Blackstone event. Gil is kind of like the next in line for the great Conan artist. I've been pleasantly surprised and arguably absolutely shocked at the fact that how consistent this book has been with kind of getting those really cool artists to take over the book one after another, and they're names that I have not seen previously, and each time I see them I'm like, wow, okay, I need to take notice. I need to make sure that I'm looking out for this name the next time it pops off on a different title, because I definitely need to follow them along. It's kind of just cool. It's a passing of the baton here, and I got to give kudos to Titan. I got to give kudos to Jim Zub for kind of crafting all these things, and I'm sure there's a litany of other people behind the scenes that need credit. I don't know their names, but they deserve it through and through. Conan, Scourge of the Serpent was a really fun issue here. Definitely make sure that you're checking this out because it's a Conan book. Why wouldn't you? All right, let's talk Imperial #4, written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Federico Vincentini and Iban Coelho. So the stage is set for all these factions, these cosmic factions, to kind of basically face off against one another so that a new cosmic landscape can be set. And I'll be honest, the statement that I just made is way more exciting than the execution of this series and this issue. This was table setting, right? This is all that really was. It was kind of resetting the scope of what the cosmic universe was going to be within Marvel. And it didn't do a whole lot to make any kind of connections to the characters that were involved. It didn't do anything to kind of make me feel any differently than I had already felt about them previously, which, if you're not tuned into the cosmic universe, which, let's be honest, not a lot of people are, this isn't going to do anything for you from a character perspective. Maybe Nova, maybe a little bit. This series is just kind of an indication of everything at Marvel right now, which is to feel like it's just rudderless, it's treadless. There is something going on over at the House of Ideas that is kind of lacking in the idea perspective. Maybe they got to retitle what they think of when they think of Marvel. This didn't do it for me. This didn't feel like it was any kind of jumping on point or jumping off point for anything within the cosmic landscape here. I would love to be wrong about that. Maybe some of these new cosmic series are going to be cool, but this was a dud. Next up, we have Return to Sleepy Hollow #1, written by Casey Gilly with artwork by Savannah Mayer. So this is all about Ichabod Crane's return to Sleepy Hollow, although his return is under the guise of Katrina calling for him to investigate another elemental threat. It's not quite that much so. So I have very little to no history with the Tim Burton movie that this is kind of like grasping onto. I know the lore of the Headless Horseman and the story behind it, but I never had seen the Sleepy Hollow movie. So I was intrigued to kind of dive into this and see if I can jump in with, little knowledge of the movie itself. And I'm happy to say that yes, I didn't need that knowledge as long as you know who the Headless Horseman is and the storyline proper. I will say this though, while I was intrigued, the narrative was a little bit long-winded here. They were definitely verbose in how they were delivering the narrative of the story. That's not a downside because I feel like they did need to kind of reintroduce this world and reintroduce these characters. But it definitely was a bit of a chore to get through. Now, the artwork here kept me fully invested, though. I think that what Savannah was bringing to this book was just so appropriate. It just really kind of like, I don't know, it oozed of that Burton feeling here, not in a hyper realistic aspect by any means, but just kind of like, I don't know, something vibed with the tone of the book and what they were trying to convey. I feel like the art style was absolutely perfect for this. So if you got a real love for the Headless Horseman or Tim Burton movies, you should probably check this out. It was pretty cool. Speaking of pretty cool, let's talk RoboWolf number 2, written and drawn by Jake Smith. Pretty cool is an understatement here. RoboWolf, kind of the team is doing battle with a previous best friend, basically, of RoboWolf, and we kind of get a flashback story. We get a little bit of an origin story of their friendship, how that friendship kind of deteriorated, and now why they're coming to blows here with everything from flamethrowers to chainsaws to everything possible that you can think of. This is pure 80s adrenaline fueled silliness. It's got one liners, it's got ultra violence, it's got the color palette of a blacklight poster in the back of a Spencer's Gifts. It is so freaking cool. If you're looking for something that is absolutely not serious, but a blast to read, you need to check this out. It's as if Shane Black were writing a 80s cartoon, like a G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe episode of the cartoons here. It's awesome. And on top of that, Robo melts his best friend's face with a flamethrower. Mwah. Oh, the artistic quality of that, chef's kiss, so freaking good. Make sure you go check out RoboWolf. I'm so glad that Robbie at Pop Culture Philosophers harassed me into reading issue number 1 because issue number 2 was even better. All right, let's talk Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Annual number 1, written by Kenny Porter with artwork by Michael Shelfer. So this storyline kind of comes on the heels of the Jason Aaron Juan Ferreira run, and the brothers really get a chance to slow down, to reconnect, and talk about all the time, all of the events that happened when they were apart prior to that run kicking off. And I gotta say, this is very effective, right? This is kind of what an annual is meant to do. It's not pivotal. It's not anything that's going to change the landscape of the Turtles, but it's really, really good at building out the characterization of the brothers. I really loved that. I think that Leo has the standout story of this issue here, as he's always been the heartbeat, right? The heart of the brothers, kind of coming together, and we finally kind of get to feel, I don't know, where his emotions lie and where his guilt really is coming from. And it's so beautiful to see that take place and to see the brothers embrace him and kind of say, hey, we're all going to shoulder this burden because we're a family and we're back together. Really cool. Now, it still makes me miss the prior run. I have no idea what the new run is going to be like, but this didn't do anything to take away from my experience either. It doesn't take away from my excitement for this new run to kick off with a new creative team. So, like I was saying, this is an annual. It's not pivotal, it's not necessary, but it does enhance your experience just a little bit. So, if you're into the TMNT universe, I would recommend checking it out. All right, we got a Kickstarter digital release, so let's go ahead and talk about Thunderhead number 1, written by Wes Craig with artwork by Kevin Castanero. So this is Wes Craig's psychedelic MK Ultra superhero adventure, and it kicks off with an old man who's heavily medicated in a retirement facility, but a mysterious group kind of brings him a blotter tab that reignites his heroic persona. This was a ton of fun. It was so freaking good. We get just enough story to build some excitement and leave us wanting more from the superheroic world, because it kind of leaves us on the stinger that this individual who has now kind of reignited that superheroic persona is not the only one that can tap into this power. Castanero delivers some really cool visuals here. If you've read some of their previous work that they had done, you already know what you're going to be in for, but it is like, it's just so fun, right? Is a hyper rendered, hyper realized, cartoony fun aspect to it, and I really enjoy what they're bringing. And on top of that, this is a Kickstarter book, so you know that this is a labor of love. So you know that each one of these creators is really putting their best foot forward when it comes to it. It totally shows in the narrative, it totally shows in the artwork. When this becomes available to the mass population, if you didn't back this on Kickstarter, make sure you check it out. Thunderhead #1 was really great. And with my runner-up book of the week, let's talk Absolute Batman 2025 Annual #1, written by Daniel Warren Johnson, James Herron, and Meredith McLaren, with artwork by Daniel Warren Johnson and James Herron and Meredith McLaren. This was an amazing book. It's arguably the one that's kind of harbored the most conversation this week when it has come out, and it was worthwhile of said conversation. The trio have a standalone story, each one of these people. So Batman's approach is juxtaposed by a priest, Batman stops a home invasion, and Batman needs the people. That's kind of like the scope of what we're dealing with here for like kind of taking everything and smashing it together. But I have to say, this is going to ruffle some feathers in the Batman community, right? This comic does a really good job at conveying, I think, what superheroes need to be and what superheroes have historically been, right? They help the oppressed. That's what they're there to do. They stop the villainous aspects, and that's exactly what the D-Dub story is all about. We have historical comics. We have such things, as Captain America punching Hitler, right? So the things that happen in the storyline, while they are very absolute, right, and very Daniel Warren Johnson, I feel that they're very appropriate for the storyline that's taking place here. I loved seeing what Batman can and should do. But arguably more importantly, I like the conversation that's had between Batman and the priest and the flashbacks that we get with Bruce Wayne and his father, knowing the approach at helping people. And while different people have different approaches, there's no right answer. What is a right answer, though, is helping those in need. And that's exactly what's happening. And it was a really cool way to deliver that message. James Herron's story kind of harkens back to the time in the very first arc where the Black Mask had distributed all of his Black Masks and the weapons, right, amongst the community, and kind of like encourage them to go create violence. This is a story all about a home invasion where we get to see, all of those things take place, but it's James Herron that really makes it special. Now, his artwork is a little bit more minimalistic than we've gotten in like things like Ultra Mega. And while I would have liked the approach that he took on Ultra Mega, which was like, I don't know, just absolutely crazy, this is a more minimalistic approach. And it wasn't bad by any means, but would I have liked to see it cranked up to 11? Yeah, kind of. All in all, though, this was a really fantastic annual. Make sure you check it out. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Batman and Robin Year 1, #12, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Chris Samney. So Batman and Robin take on Dent and Clayface here for the final time, at least within this series. And this series and this issue were a beautiful look at the mythos of Batman and Robin. This was just a perfect culmination of everything that makes this comic special, what makes this duo special, and it was on full display. It was undeniably fantastic. There is a heartbeat to this story here, and I think that Mark Waid and Chris Samney were the team that were going to be able to deliver this in the absolute best way possible. The artwork is stunning. It has been never taken a page or a panel off throughout the entire series. This is no different than what we've gotten here. But the thing that's kind of fun about this is that it feels different than every other issue that we've gotten within the series, as it's all kind of been about the buildup, right, of this relationship. And there's been trials and tribulations, and they've been pulled apart. And this is all about kind of like them finding the best version of themselves and then moving forward as the dynamic duo. And we get the cheese and we get the campiness that Batman is kind of known for, particularly from the 66 TV show, but they kind of incorporate those things in such a loving way. And on top of that, we get to see the change that takes place in Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Batman, and Robin. Great series. This is just the perfect ending to one of the most just the most fantastic series of the year. Make sure you check this out. If you haven't been following along on floppies, get the collected edition. This is going to be evergreen. It's going to bring a smile to your face. I guarantee it. It was absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.